So after another disastrous performance at the World Cup, English football is at a low ebb once again. Is it a case of too much, too young? Do young English players earn so much money that they just get distracted and lose their desire to succeed?
If you speak to people at Bundesliga clubs, they're very clear, even at clubs like Bayern, about how you bring through young players, about not giving them too much too young, about integrating them and making them feel they're part of the team, but they're not superstars. And that doesn't happen in this country. The celebrity aspect gets in the way.
It's just not right for me at the moment, the way that it's done with youngsters. You've got to be appreciative, you've got to have something to strive for. You know, if you're giving an 17, 18-year-old a massive contract, that's the way of the world now. It's all money orientated. So what's their desire then to go and improve?
Some young players believe in their own hype. So some young players at the top, very top level, who may make a bit more money, or who may have encountered a bit more success earlier than others, can, and it's not everybody, can become overconfident, complacent, believe in their hype a bit too much, and so subsequently they don't carry on that conveyor belt process of learn, develop, improve.
It's all about the boots and the hairstyle, isn't it? And you know, it can't be that. You know, don't get me wrong. Everyone, these people that have got these boots that you're looking up to, these people that have got these hairstyles or whatever it might be, they've worked hard to get where they're at. You know, and they deserve to be there. And I just think that a lot of lads are now in football for the wrong reasons. You know, recently, before I retired, I had youngsters coming up to me saying, how much would you watch? How much was your car? And I never dreamed of doing anything like that when I was a young lad.
It's meant that they've been scared to develop their game or take risks, change their game, it doesn't necessarily motivate them to keep on being a student of the game, and that's really, really important.
Lineker, Gaza, Waddle, Ince, Platt, all of them had successful careers abroad, so why don't more of this generation follow their lead?
But obviously Premier League's part of it. You get much better paid here, you don't have to leave. English players often tend to be people who've barely been abroad, barely experienced other cultures. And definitely they suffer from it. I mean, if you've succeeded in another country, if you've been abroad and played in 2 different leagues, you're just going to be a better footballer. We see it in other sports too.
Why do you think so many players come to England from continental Europe in particular, but very few English players go abroad?
Well, I think a lot of that was what we've been talking about. A, you get some that just want to come for a payday. B, you get some that just want to come for a payday.
I think part of the problem at tournaments is the England players are just not used to being away from home. They're not used to living away in hotels. It's always a big deal. How are we going to amuse the lads? How are we going to cope? Will there be enough ping pong? Whereas if you're a young kid from whatever, some Balkan nation who spent basically his whole professional life abroad, going for 6 weeks to another country to play in a tournament is nothing. You feel totally at home. It's what you're used to. Whereas our lot always look totally bemused by the whole experience.
Maybe it's all in the head. Do English players just clam up in the big tournaments? Are their opponents just mentally tougher than they are?
I'm not so sure that England really underperform. I think they just perform. I mean, that's just what they are. There's this sort of idea that the pressure gets to them or whatever, but I'm not so sure it really does. I think they just aren't as good as we want them to be. The details around England at a tournament are always seen as a very big deal. The idea is if we can just get all that stuff right, suddenly we'll, years of neglect and generations of underdeveloped footballers will all come good. I thought the experiment with the team psychologist was a very clear example of exactly what's wrong with England. The idea that you can sort of implant this thing at the very highest level and it will somehow fix all the ills that have happened in the system up to then.
In terms of the impact on England teams, well, I just think that the psychology needs to be measured in a different way. The most important people in the England setup are the players, followed by the manager, followed by the coaching staff, followed by the auxiliary team. And your sports scientists and your sports psychologists are in your auxiliary team. As Roy Keane said, it's the players and the manager who are the proper sports psychologists in that venture there.
Do you think England have an inferiority complex?
They shouldn't have, should they, with the players that they've got? They really shouldn't have, and I just don't think that the players have been best used over recent years. You know, if you've got someone like Wayne Rooney, who's a fantastic centre forward and who's very, very good at dropping deep and bringing other players into play, why would you go and stick him out on the left wing? You know, that's like asking Pirlo to go and play centre-back. Would Italy ever have done that? No, because he dictates the play. And I just think at times England, because they're so worried about the opposition, will pay players out of position to try and counter that.
Football literacy, or lack of it, is a theory that gets banded around a lot, but can it really be true that these English players with so much Champions League experience are tactically naive?
I mean, there are two problems with why English footballers aren't better. The first is developmental. I mean, you learn everything about how good you're going to be at football technically between the ages of 7 and 13. That's a very common view. And at that level, our footballers simply don't play enough. They're not coached properly. They learn to hoof. They still, I'm sorry, people say that we're playing small-sided games on small pitches, but that's not what I see. There's still a lot of very physical, aggressive football where the bigger kids do well, and if you're a small kid, you basically get elbowed out of it. That's still happening.
The culture in Spain and Italy, as an example, because I've done some stuff there, is there's more of an emphasis on game intelligence, tactics, the mental side, and those can be the mediators between success and failure.
So what's the core problem? Is it money? I don't buy that. Plenty of young German and Spanish players earn a few quid at a young age and they seem to be doing all right. What about this issue of English players not going abroad? Are they scared? Maybe it's the clubs that don't actually want them. Anyway, let us know how you would fix England in the comments below. Want to see your solutions, people. And if you haven't already, don't forget you can subscribe to our YouTube channel right about here. We've got lots of content coming out here all through the week. We'll see you next week.